I have not streamed Kovaaks in a little bit, and I'm honestly a little rusty on Kovaaks. I think I'm gonna start with my one by one, which is a pretty solid smoothness routine. Then I might just do the gold Sparky fundamentals. I'm not going to push any PVs today. I would really like to get plat, because I am planning on putting together a video on how to get platinum. Ironically, because I'm not actually like focusing on that. Maybe I should take some of my own goddamn advice. But I just wouldn't think it would be appropriate to put together a video on how to get to plat if I wasn't in fact plat. Seems logical. Right now I'm concentrating on keeping my mouse on the target. I know that sounds really stupid and obvious, but I'm finding that I'm overcompensating right now, so I'm trying to minimize my mouse movements except when they're absolutely needed to run like a big movement across my mouse pad, if that makes sense. Because I'm obviously not being precise right now. And honestly, I mean, you see how big of a difference. I mean, 9 isn't that great anyway, but I'm obviously having an off day. I'm pretty hungover, kind of tired. Haven't been sleeping too well. Work's been kind of stressful, so all of those things can actually affect your training in your day-to-day. If you train pretty much every day, like you're aiming every day, you'll notice things like that. You'll start to, especially if God forbid you keep like a journal or something, you will notice those types of patterns. And I don't think it hurts to train on those days. Just knowing that they're going to be outliers. Like, you probably shouldn't expect a lot of yourself and you shouldn't push yourself on those days, but I think you should still train. It's kind of like when people say if you want to lose weight or whatever, and you're going to the gym, even if you don't feel like working out, you still like show up, like just go to the gym. Just the act of having that consistency, it's just easier to talk yourself out of it if you start missing days. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, I can skip this day, and then you just start justifying it to yourself. It's important not to be hard on yourself just because you're having a bad day. Just realize it's part of the process. There's going to be peaks and valleys in your progress. And who knows? I mean, maybe I'll still have some good games in Apex, I might hop into casuals. Exactly. Accountability. cracked path accountability. By the way, if you ever want to feel good about yourself and you record your video, look at your aiming video in like 2 times speed. It looks like you are on target like so much, and just like, damn, I'm actually good. Like you don't notice all of the micro mistakes that you're making as much. It's funny, just doing this scenario, it reminds me of, there's a Reddit post somebody made on the FPS Aim Trainer subreddit, which is a good little community around Kovaaks, basically. And he was having problems with his close fast strafes. And I looked at his video, his VOD, and I gave him a little bit of advice. And then I was like, man, I'm really surprised that you're getting high scores on like long strafing scenarios based on what I'm seeing. And he was like, well, actually, I mean, if you take a look at this, and he showed me his thin gauntlet scores, and he's like number like 150 or something in his top. And I was like, oh, I am actually not qualified to give you advice. I just realized. Yeah, this is called Kovaaks FPS Aim Trainer. There's pretty much only 2 aim trainers that people use. One is called Aim Beast. Well, sorry, there's 3. But the 2 that people kind of, in the aiming community, say are the de facto ones are Aim Beast, and this is called Kovaaks. It looks kind of like cartoony, and like it's not very modern. Aim Beast is way more modern. But the good thing about Kovaaks is that it has way more training scenarios, because people have to create these maps, like custom. And Aim Beast doesn't really have them yet, even though it looks a lot better and it feels a lot smoother. I'm just gonna pop on my damn webcam. Yeah, but this is Aim Lab is the other one that you see a lot of streamers will pitch, even streamers that say aim training's stupid, which I think is kind of funny, but most people in the aiming community don't really recommend that. Although I hear they are getting a lot of patches, which might make it a lot more viable. Yeah, and the good thing about like learning aim fundamentals is it translates to pretty much any game. Like if there's different FOVs and there's different sensitivities, different types of arcade shooters versus kind of like low TTK shooters like Counter-Strike or Valorant, or higher TTK shooters that I play like Apex. I think you play that too, Deadman. As long as you learn the fundamentals of aiming, it's cross-platform, it's cross-game. I want to make a video on like how to get to this certain level, and the aim. There's like this aim training community run like ranking system, you want to say, and like the first rank that really matters is called Plat, basically, and it goes like Plat, Diamond, you know, all the standard, and just kind of like walk people through like how to improve like regularly, because people always hit plateaus, and then they constantly, that's one thing I always see people ask. It's like, how can I improve, basically? Like, I'm stuck, I'm frustrated, I can't get better, yada yada. So I've already got all the content like figured out how to make the video. I'm not Plat myself yet, so it seems kind of like I wouldn't listen to somebody who's like, hey, here's how you can get to Plat when They're not actually plat. I feel like investing time in aim training is a lot like fitness investment. It's like people, or like dieting. There's always this group of people that want to see immediate results, and like they get frustrated if they don't see it, which is totally understandable because you want to know that what you're doing is going to result in positive outcomes. But there's always this thing that I've noticed in the aim training community where people have an idea in their head of how many hours it takes to get to a certain level, and it's different for everybody. And some people have poured like 15,000 hours into Counter-Strike, and it takes them like 50 hours to get plat in Kovaaks. There's people like me who I put over 250 hours into this bad boy, and I'm still not plat, so. Because I'm a boomer. I've noticed in the aiming community, the people that are the most successful value some of the culture side of improvement, like generic improvement. And I'm thinking that is, like, in terms of like maximizing or like optimizing your ability to improve at the game and the aiming generically is you want to focus on things like diet, exercise, sleep, those things that seem to not matter, that do actually have hidden major impacts in your ability to improve. And I think the difficult thing with those types of components is it's really hard to measure their success rate, or whether or not they directly translate into improvement for you. I've seen people even talking about like, hey, in order to improve your reactivity, you need to drink water. Drink plenty of water, and you're like, all right, I mean, cool, I guess. Is this Hydro Homie subreddit, or? Oh no. Wow. Crush that score. So the secret to this scenario is not to follow the bot all the way down. If you watch like all the Sparky GMs, like the high-level aimers, you'll see that most of the time they don't follow it all the way down. Oh wow, I just got some bad frame lag. Alright. At least my aim is not nearly as bad as I was thinking it was once I started. When I started, it was so off. So it should make for a fun Apex stream. So this is just the gold routine, the Sparky gold routine right now. Normally what I'll do is I'll start out with pure smoothness, 1 by 1. I don't know if you've seen this. And then I'll move into, depending on the day, I'll either grind benchmarks. So I might try to grind click or track benchmarks, or I will just run a regular routine. Yeah, pure is... This is probably my favorite routine right now, this 1 by 1. It's really good. Centering in particular is one of my favorite scenarios. It's super hard. Yeah, one of the most important things with... I say this all the time, but with improving at Kovaaks, I mean, and just your aim in general, is to do it consistently. That's like, for the longest time I wasn't seeing the results that I was kind of looking for, and then I just started practicing literally every day, even if it was just for 30 minutes, and it's just started getting a lot better. And I started watching pros, like the people that are really good at some scenarios and how they do scenarios, and I realized I was doing things like, some things, I was developing bad habits basically. It's kind of like learning an instrument. It's like you might be able to play guitar and it'll produce sound and it'll sound good, but as you get further and further and get better and better at it, those bottlenecks start to happen, like where you realize that you've learned how to pluck the wrong way, or you know, do bar chords or whatever it is. And as you start doing more complicated songs, you can't, because you never learned those techniques and those fundamentals. And I think that's one of the hardest things that people wrestle with. I know I wrestle with is, there's no objective, like, right way to improve. So you don't know. It's a lot of trial and error. You gotta, like, figure out what works for you. There's a lot of good information out there now, but it's still not nearly as good as something like cooking, you know? Where you can, like, learn objective, like, methods of, like, searing meat or making cake or whatever it is. Don't do what I do, which is chase bots. Ideally, one click and move on. It's more important to have a rhythm. Wow, I got my high score at least. Yeah, I'm speeding up, and that's one of the key things I think with clicking scenarios generically is you definitely want to have a rhythm, and you definitely want to stop yourself from going back after you've missed and just keep chasing that one bot. Like, you want to start to develop a rhythm and just stop thinking about it. And if you're thinking about it, then you're going to focus too much on the individual bots when you should be focusing on your overall score. One of the most important things I think in this scenario is, aside from not being terrible at it, is to try to pick your targets in advance and then commit to the next target that you plan on going toward. What I used to do a lot of, and I still catch myself doing it, is kind of after you kill a target, a better one shows up, and then you've already started moving toward your target, but then you switch back to it, and you shouldn't do that. It just causes a lot of wasted movement. Like, I feel like this scenario, more than any other scenario, or target switching in general, benefits from minimizing your wasted movements. Every little quarter of a second that you have over flicking, and then flicking, you know, flicking back, it's not even really flicking back, but just moving back, all that adds up to major score differences.